right, we are going to work on distance in a coordinate plane. So to start off with, we're going to kind of look at how we do it with graphing, and then I'll show you a quicker formula to do. So if I graph the point 3, 6, I go over 3, up 6, and negative 1, 9. So my goal is to figure out how far apart are these two. Well, when it's on a coordinate plane, it's much easier because I can see, oh, I can make a right triangle. Which, if you remember from our last lesson, we can use Pythagoras' theorem to find any missing side of a right triangle. And I can count that this is 1, 2, 3, so this side is 3, this side 1, 2, 3, 4 is 4, so all I have to do is plug that into Pythagoras' theorem. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 9 plus 16 equals c squared, 25 is c squared, square root both sides, so that side length is 5. Now, if you're like me, I hate having to graph. Like, I don't always have graph paper. So there's kind of a cheating way to do this without graphing. All you really have to say is how far apart are the x's. How far apart is 3 and negative 1? They're 4 away from each other. And how far apart are their y's? 6 and 9 are 3 away, and those will always be your side lengths in Pythagoras' theorem, or the legs, and then I can find the hypotenuse. So we're going to practice that a little bit. Before we do that, I'm going to give you kind of the formal definition of it. So there is, not definition, the formula. If you look up distance in a coordinate plane, what they're going to tell you is they're going to say you take the x values and subtract them, square it. That's really getting like our a squared. You then do plus, you take the y values and find how far apart they are and square it. Oops, sorry, not to the first part. Then, do you agree that like every time if I'm going to find c squared, we always square root at the end? So they square root it all and say that is the distance between 2 points. Really, it's just Pythagoras' theorem. This is saying how far apart are the x's to find one leg? We square it. How far apart are the y's to find the other leg? We square it. We would do all our math inside, and then we square root at the end to find just what c is. So I'm going to give you kind of my own words of how to do this because I think that looks really confusing. So in Miss Terry's words, you find how far apart are how far apart are the x's? How far apart are the y's? And then these become the legs. Which is A and B in Pythagoras' theorem. Now, I know some of you are formula people. Go for this. If that makes sense for you, I'm all about that. I love it. I just hate memorizing another formula. And to me, I can say, oh yeah, this is just Pythagoras' theorem, so I don't memorize something. But feel free to if you'd prefer. Okay, so let's actually practice it. So I'm going to kind of just use my idea here of how far apart there are the x's. Well, 2 and 7 are 5 apart, so that's 5 squared. That's going to be my A. How far apart are 6 and 1? It's also 5 squared. Now, one thing, it doesn't matter if it would be negative 5 or positive 5 because every number squared comes positive. So I always just look at the positive value, plus we're talking distance, which if you remember way back from chapter 1, we always remember we always write distance as a positive number. So I have my 2 legs. So that is 25 plus 25 equals c squared, which is 50 equals c squared. We have to square root both sides. Now here's where we kind of come back into our lesson as well from last time, is can I write this as a simplified radical? Well, I know that square root of 5 times square root of 10, and that's also square root of 5 times square root of 2. I have 2 square roots of 5, so that means 5 square root of 2 is c. All right, there's our answer. All right, our next one is how far apart are these? So how far apart is negative 9 and negative 11? It's 2 apart. Negative 9 and 5 is going to be 16 apart. That's going to be my c squared. So I have 4 plus 256 equals c squared. That's 260 equals c squared. Square root it. So off to the side here, I'm just going to do square root of 260. If I divide that by 2, I get square root of 130. Divide that by 2, and I get square root of 65. And that's square root of 5, square root of 13. So what do I have 2 of the same of? Square root of 2. So this could be 2 square root of, and 13 times 5 is 65. So that's my answer for C. All right, good luck, guys.